Hey everyone, Captain V from All Pro. Let's talk spoons. A little bit about me. I'm the owner of All Pro National, and we're a multifaceted fishing company. One of the things we do is we run charters under the name of All Pro Charters out of Lindenhurst, Long Island, the South Shore of Long Island. We charter everywhere from Montauk to the Jersey Shore, out to the canyon. We cover all your inshore species as well as your pelagic and our offshore species. We also have a bait and tackle store on the water at the Surfside 3 Marina in Lindenhurst, New York. You can pull up by boat or you could come by car. We could service your reels. We have all the All Pro products that we design there. We also carry other brand items there. We have live bait, we have fresh bait, we have frozen bait, we have egg sandwiches, and we've got beer. We've got it all. It's a really nice shop. You can pick up a shirt. There's a bunch of things you could do there. So come by the All Pro Market and Tackle in Lindenhurst. The other thing I do is during my off season, which is basically between November 15th and January, so it doesn't give me too much, a month and a half, I design fishing lures, fishing accessories. We just completed my first design of a fishing rod. So I want to go over a particular item today that people ask me about, and that is, how do you use a Flutter Spoon for stripers? So let's get into it. What is a Flutter Spoon? Well, I didn't invent the Flutter Spoon, but what I saw was a way to, I felt, improve the Flutter Spoon, improve the action on the Flutter Spoon, and also improve the quality of the Flutter Spoon. The 9-inch Flutter Spoon, which most people use for striped bass, was actually a freshwater spoon at one point. And like many other, lures, it eventually crossed over into saltwater. My experience with that spoon was that it rusted out easily. It did not wear very well. So my first spoon that I created was an all stainless steel spoon, and I improved it by putting an S shape in the spoon and making it like a spoon, where we creased it and formed the spoon. This way, when the spoon drops, it gives a lot more fluttering action. So this is your typical 9-inch spoon, our first spoon. A few things you want to do when you're shopping for spoons. Number one, if you're fishing saltwater, you want stainless. High grade, good quality stainless. And that's everything. That's from your swivel right on down to your split rings. And you want a really, really good rust resistant hook. Number two, if you're not going to get an All Pro spoon, if one's not available near you, or you can't get them online, whatever it may be, you want to make sure your spoon has an S curve in it. It will improve the action of your spoon. Spoons that do not have S curves and are flat spoons, they have a more tendency of propelling and spinning on you. So it's important that you have that S curve. Now, this was our first spoon. Very basic spoon, did the job. But we saw that there were some issues with it. One of the issues with the spoon was that we were losing fish, and we were getting feedback from fishermen that they would hook up, they would set the hook, but then they would lose the bass on their way up or at the boat. And what they felt was that the bass, by swinging their head, they were actually using the spoon somehow to pry that hook out of their mouths. So one of the improvements that we created, was that we added a high quality swivel between the split ring and the hook. So that is how it was initially upgraded. Then what we did is we added a dual rotating swivel to the Flutter Spoon, where a very gentle touch there you can see is a high quality swivel. The top of the swivel also spins, so it's a dual rotating swivel. This basically eliminates any concern at all of your line winding on you or twisting on you. The same swivel, which is stainless steel, is used down here as well. I could turn it like this, or I could hold it and I could spin this as well, like that, and it spins. The other thing that we found was that action creates the bite. So it was real important that we had that S curve in there, but we noticed that when we were drifting the spoons, they had a tendency, once you get over like 2.5 miles per hour, if you're bump trolling or you had a good drift or it scoped out on you and you were trying to pull it along like that, it would propel on you a little bit. So to kind of prevent that, what we did was we created these ribs. And these ribs here actually provide some stability while providing even more action as it flutters. Or it creates more of a swimming pattern with the spoon. So this is the brand new spoon for 2025 called the XT25 Flutter Spoon. Comes with a 12 millimeter eye, and surprisingly enough, the eye doesn't come off. I thought that was going to be one of our biggest problems. Not. The other thing is the quality. Let's talk about it. High grade stainless steel. Some spoons, they powder coat. The problem with the powder coating of the spoons is that you could get chips in them. So we actually paint our spoons. This is an actual paint job. Or we plate our spoons, almost like jewelry. Like our gold spoons are all plated. The chrome spoons are also plated over stainless steel. This way, they're scratch resistant, chip resistant, good quality. Because when you're spending, $18, $20, $22 for a spoon, you want to be able to use it all season or multiple seasons. So it's important that you get the quality spoon. So those are the improvements of the spoon. We have a dual swivel mustad jaw lock hook, which is 4 times the strength. These are 3/0s. We have stainless steel split ring, stainless steel dual rotating swivels. But how do you use it? And how do you use it effectively? Well, let's first talk about the rod. Let's talk about the equipment. Well, you want to use braid, because braid allows you to get down to the water faster, right? So we cut through the water easier. So we're going to use braid, but we also use a leader. We want a little bit of a shock absorbent there. So we're going to put a leader on it. But the rod, the reality of it is this. We spend a lot of money on rods. And the fact is that the rod is going to give you the enjoyment, the fun of the fishing experience. So you could literally like use a broom handle and jig this thing and catch a fish. Not going to be fun, not going to have a lot of action. Or you could use a rod such as one that we created called the Pro All-Star. And that particular rod is such a versatile rod. We're so excited about it. It's coming out soon, where it comes in a spinning model as well as a casting model with spiral or acid wrap guides. And it has a fast tip, but a carbon fiber backbone, which we use a carbon weave in that backbone to give it extra support. So that's another video. But what that allows you to do is to fish for larger fish, heavier fish, but still have a tip. So if you could find one of your rods that have a little bit of a backbone to it, but a quick tip, so when you're jerking it, you get that like whippy action, That's what you want. It's going to give you more action, more fun when the fish hits. That's the rod. As for the line, I like 30-pound braid. Can you use 50-pound braid? Absolutely, you could use 50-pound braid. The only thing that I usually use 30. I like light, so I go light with everything. I set my drag. I use my drag system. So I like going with 30-pound braid. I usually go with a 30-pound leader. I use monofilm. I don't use fluorocarbon. In the comments below, tell me if you use fluorocarbon or mono, and the reason why I use fluorocarbon. My opinion is that these fish aren't really line shy. You're not really fishing in too much structure where you're concerned about abrasion per se in structure. So I don't really need fluorocarbon for something like that. I like the mono, gives me a little bit of flexibility off the braid, and it works for me, and I go with the mono. I usually use a 30-pound mono. However, in the fall, when we have a better run of the larger fish, and they're coming back down from the north and heading south, that during that migration, I may, if I know that I've been hitting large schools of larger fish, big schools of larger fish, if I notice that, I may upgrade my leader to 50 pounds, but not all that often. Most of the time I stay with 30, and honestly, we don't really lose fish. Again, we use our drag systems. We set the drag, so we're in pretty good shape with that. But now, how do you fish them? So there's generally a simple way of doing it, and you're going to first mark bait or mark the fish. Preferably, you like to mark the fish. You love to see those chevrons on the bottom, right? Piled up. And you don't have to have a million of them. If you have just a few of them, that's enough. As long as you got bait around it or over it, that's enough to convince me to let's drop it down and play with it and see what we got. Because the action on the Flutter Spoon will attract the fish that are not just under your boat. So that action will help you bring those fish in. So if I'm just marking some fish or I'm marking some good bait, and wherever there is bait, wherever there's a bunker pod, wherever there's a school of sand eels, I can guarantee you that there is some sort of predator nearby. It might be a whale, might be some dolphins, but the striped bass probably aren't that far away. They may not be feeding, so you're not catching them, and there's a little trick to that I'm going to talk about a little later. But they're around. They don't let their meals go too far. However, if you come upon an area with bait and you don't catch anything, move on. Don't just keep pounding the same area. Move on and find another area, and eventually, you'll get onto some a pod or a bait ball of some kind that there's some fish that are feeding. So we're going to drop it down. I use a bait casting reel because I like to keep my spool in free spool and just use my thumb to control it. And then if I need to scope out a little bit or let a little line out, I can easily do that. I don't have to fool around with a bail or anything like that. Some people like to use a spinning setup, and that's fine. It's what you're comfortable with. Again, I'm a bait casting guy, so that's what I go with. And so what I do is that you're going to drop it down, and you're going to actually feel it hit the bottom. These weigh a true 5 ounces. And that's another thing about quality when you're buying. Just because it's 9 inches doesn't mean it's 5 ounces. They make them thinner. They make them out of different type of materials, different composite metals, and therefore they won't all weigh the same. So you definitely want a 9-inch spoon that weighs 5 ounces. They do make larger spoons. I don't make a larger spoon, and the only reason why I don't make a larger spoon is because I really don't see the application for the larger spoon. Everything that we fish on the South Shore of Long Island all works well with a 9-inch spoon or a slightly smaller spoon. I don't need a 13-inch spoon. So what we do is that we will free fall it down. Now, sometimes going down, I'll give it a little jig here or there, and that's why I like using, a bait casting reel, because I can just lock up the spool and jig it a little bit and then release the spool again and let it go down and flutter. The whole thing in your mind is fluttering. If you're not someone who's familiar with jigging spoons or working spoons, play with it around your boat before you leave the dock in shallow water where you can actually see it and look at the action and what happens when you pull it. And this way you have an idea that when you're fishing on what it's doing. So maybe you can make a couple of little changes to get the effect that you're looking for. So now what I like to do is drop it down, hit the bottom, give it a good hard stiff jerk up, bring it up, free spool it back down or just drop my tip back down, hit the bottom. I do that 3 times. After the 3rd time, if I'm not on a fish, I usually bring it up halfway through the water column. So if I'm fishing in 40 feet or 50 feet of water, I'm going to pull it up about 20 feet or I'm going to pull it 25 feet. And then I'm going to free spool it back down from there. I might again, because I have my open spool, I'll use my thumb. I might stop it, give it a quick little jerk. Again, maybe try to get the attention of something and drop it back down. Once it gets down, I bounce it on the bottom 3 times. I bring it back up. I do that 3 times. If I do that 3 times and I'm not on a fish at that point, I'm basically moving on and looking for new bait or a different school of fish because that group just isn't biting. That's how effective these spoons are. If they're going to hit these spoons, they're going to hit them pretty quick, especially if you have a few people on the boat. So when we run charters, we got 4, 5, 6 people on the boat. So if everyone does 3 hits, bum, 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 and no one has anything, I like to move. Sometimes I'm not moving that far, but I like to move and find another area of fish or bait and work them again. There is a little bit of a trick, though, that I'm going to tell you about right now. And it's only between you, me, and the entire internet now. That's going to improve your bite. So if you're someone who fishes, let's say, on a party boat and there's a pool, make sure you go in the pool. Because what I'm going to tell you now is going to hook you up with the fish. And it's going to probably hook you up with the bigger fish. And this is the trick. There's a great fisherman by the name of Mike Smedley. Some of you may have heard of him. He's a YouTube fisherman and an influencer. He has a great following on YouTube. You can look up Smedley or Mike Smedley, and you can watch his videos. I believe it was a couple of years ago. I never met him. I did see a couple of his videos, and we decided to send him some product. And we sent them, I think, teasers. I don't believe he bought the teasers from us. I'm pretty sure we sent them to him. And they were our pro teasers. And our pro teasers is a 4.0 hook with a 5mm eye with some deer hair and some crystal flash. Pretty basic. The pro stands for production. So it's a pro teaser. It's a good value. I think there's 4 in a package. They're like $8 online. And they're really good quality teasers. They hold up well, especially for that price for the 4 teasers. Well, Mike hit me up one day. I don't know if it was an email or a text message. And he said, you have to check out this video. And what he did was that he was on a boat one day fishing, no intention of shooting I guess a video of teasers on a line for striped bass, but the bite wasn't really great. And one of the guys on the boat put a teaser, this little teaser, almost like a fly, about 24 to 36 inches above a spoon that they were working. And boom, boom, boom. He was out fishing everybody on the boat, and he caught more fish than everyone else. And a lot of the fish all hit the teaser. And he told me about this. He's like, check this out. So obviously, I want to try it out. And I put that teaser above the spoon, and it worked. While other, fishermen were not catching fish, I would put an inexperienced fishing person I'd give that person the teaser and let them work that particular spoon, and they would actually outfish the more experienced angler, which was pretty cool and pretty exciting, and a lot of rib talking there back and forth when that happens on the boat. So I came up with the idea that we needed a teaser designed for stripers. So the first thing we had to do was swap out the hooks because that 4-0 hook just wasn't large enough. And I really don't want a huge hook, not for this application because I didn't want it too heavy. So we went with a 6-0 mustad hook. And what I did was that we made it with 12mm eyes, threaded head with 2 resins and a hardener. And it looks like a bucktail, like it weighs like 1 ounce, maybe 1.5, 2 ounces, but it's not. It's feather light, a la the name of it's called Feather Pro. And it's made with a feather, with deer hair, with crystal flash, as well as flashaboo, which is a tinsel. And when this goes in the water, the action is absolutely incredible. And what you do is you tie it about 24 to 36 inches above your spoon. And for those who are not familiar with that or don't understand, I'll kind of give you a quick little lesson now on how we do it. So because our spoons come with these dual rotating swivels, we just use speed clips on our line to attach all our lures. So just like that, easy on. And that's your spoon on your lure. Now, to catch the bigger fish, to catch the fish when other people aren't catching the fish, you're going to come up, let's say 2 feet like that, maybe 3 feet, and you're going to make a drop loop. Now, for those who aren't familiar with the drop loop, I'm sorry that I'm using this line here. You might not be able to see it. Maybe you can see a little better along the back here. I'll kind of go slow with this. But what you want to do is just make a loop. So for those who are a little confused, just bring your thumbs together. And it basically makes a loop by itself, right? If you bring your 2 fingers together, you got a loop. See, there you go. See, bingo, loop, okay? Now we want to make sure that loop is about 6 inches, and that's good enough. Listen, we just don't want it short. Too long is fine. You don't want a foot, but we're not measuring it. Just in that range. Then this line here is going to your lure. This line here is going to your rod. So you have 2 lines, and the loop is below, and here's the bottom of the loop. So now what we're going to do is we are now going to just spin this. Now, I like going 8. I like ending on 9, an odd number. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. When you make your drop loop, let me know how many times you like to spin it. I know that if I use this is only 20-pound mono right here, so that's why I'm going 8 times. If it was a 50-pound mono, I'd probably go closer. It'll make me 6 times or 5 times. I'll feel it out. So drop a comment below. Let me know how many times you wrap it around. Then what we do is we get the bottom of the loop, and you can see here, let me see if I can show you how this is. There's a twist here, and then I'll show you over here. There's a twist on this side, right? Because we twisted it. And then we have the opening here. You're just going to put this bottom of the loop through that opening, and this is where you kind of have to use your mouth. Well, at least I do. Lefties do everything a little weird. And I grab it, and you just pull it together like this. See? Now, you could put a little kiss on that, pull it tight, and there it is. So that doesn't move now. That is locked in there. Now, what's also really neat about this, just so you know, not for this application, but for those who are fluke fishing and stuff like that, you could actually now, if you wrap it at least 8 times, you could actually cut this here, and then you could snell a teaser on or snell a hook and use it that way. But for our application, we're going to leave it as a loop. We're going to get our Feather Pro teaser, And we're going to stick it through here. Now, there might be a little resin in that eyelet, but we'll see if we can get it through. Let's see. There it goes. Now, I recommend that you pull the loop through, and then before you try to go over everything, hold it like this. And what that does, it prevents you getting, hair or crystal flash wrapped up in your loop. And then you can just pull your loop like this, and you're not getting anything tangled in there. And that's it. So this little trick right here, and I go from the bottom up. I think some people like going from the top down. I don't want to say one way is right, the other way is wrong. It's fishing, right? I mean, what works for you works for you. If you catch fish with it, stay with it. I catch fish this way, I'm leaving it this way. I go from the bottom and up, and my loop goes around. And so this is what your rig actually now looks like. So when you're fishing this, I will guarantee you will get as many hits on this teaser as you do on the spoon. Now, my theory on this, and I can't prove it, but my theory on this is that even when the fish aren't feeding, the reason why they'll strike this is I think they see this is feeding, and it might cause a reaction of them saying, hey, it's food, because a lot of times they don't hit this, they hit this. So if they see this trying to feed on this, they try to get the food. And so they'll go and they'll smack that. Even if everyone else have live bait down there, they got bunker, they're snagging and dragging bunker and everything else, and they're setting down mackerel chunks, clam, spoons, and they're not getting hits. And next you know, boom, you get a hit. I think it's because in fish science, they see this feeding on this, and it kind of, tells them, hey, that's food, let's eat it. Let's talk about color for a moment. Does color mean anything? In the comments below, let me know what your go-to colors are, and if color really means anything to you. I'll tell you what color means to me. In the spring, I like using chrome. We have some great chrome spoons with some prism on it. I like it because you get that reflection. I will also go in the spring on clear, bright days with a chartreuse spoon. I like that as well, but my go-to spoon is mostly my chrome spoon. If I'm fishing dawn or dusk or overcast or during the evening hours, or when it's getting dark, I will go with a glow spoon. I have a blue light on my boat. Sometimes if you don't even have a blue light, I would just put my floodlights on in my boat, and I hold my flutter bait, my flutter spoon, my glow spoon up on those lights for a few seconds, and just drop it down there. I can't stress enough how much that will improve the bite by you just, charging your glow spoons up like that. I have blue lights on my boat, also white. I could turn them blue and white. I'm sure most people do. I think you might get a little bit of glow with the blue, but maybe not. You can use the white. I'm just a creature of habit. I go with blue, and I hit it, and it works great. I mean, the glow is so fabulous on these spoons that you can almost use it as like a walking stick. It's really that good. I don't use many other color spoons. In the fall, I go with gold. I like our gold prism spoon. I also like this bunker pattern spoon because it has gold in it and also has a silver backing. There's some people who swear by our, it's called a squid prism spoon or Wonder Bread. They swear by it. It's one of our better sellers. Flies out the door. The other spoon that's really popular up in the sound area is our pink and white spoons. Again, very successful with those pink and white spoons, and they go. We have spoons that look like mackerel and so forth. So Those are spoons that I normally aren't fishing. Again, I'm usually fishing chrome, chartreuse, glow, or something in the gold during the fall run. There's one other spoon I want to show you. We created it we created it actually 2 years ago. It was a year of testing, and then it was on the market for the first time this year. And it's called the Fat Cat. Now, the Fat Cat is a 4-ounce casting flutter spoon. It's kind of a lot to say, and it does a lot, which is pretty cool for one lure. So the Fat Cat is a flutter spoon, much like this spoon here, but it works in shallow water. So you want to be in 30 feet or less to work the Fat Cat, because it has a larger girth, a wider body. It falls through the water column slower. So if you try to fish in like 60 or 80 feet of water, it doesn't really work. You'll get scoped out, because by the time it gets down to the bottom where the fish are, it's too late. Your spoons are quite a distance away from where you're marking fish. So this works best if you're in 30 feet or less water and you're going to drop it down. Like I mentioned earlier, same method about bouncing it off the bottom. However, what's really neat about this spoon that you cannot do with this spoon is that when that bite comes to the surface, and we've all seen it, you know, next thing you know, the fish start to feed and they come up and it's like a mob scene, right? It's a slaughter and all the fish are all on top. Well, you would have to now look for a plug and switch over to a plug, or you really can't throw a diamond jig out there, right? You're not throwing this big 9-inch spoon that's just going to go like this on you and spin out there, and you'll throw it 10 feet. This spoon is designed to actually, so you could cast it. It's weighted in the back. So when you cast this spoon, as long as you're not casting it into wind in your face, you're going to be fine. You could cast if the wind's coming from your right, your left, or from behind you. Just if it's coming in your face and you got, 15-mile-per-hour winds, 20-mile-per-hour winds in your face, you're probably not going to get this very far. It is a spoon. But what's real neat about it, that even though it's 4 ounces, the way it's designed on a very slow retrieval and drag, that's it, slow and drag, this spoon stays within 4 to 12 inches of the surface and will swim just like this. Absolutely amazing how it stays up in the water column, up by the surface, and the bass cannot resist it because it looks like a bunker that is injured or, and slow, and it's wobbling. It's just dinner, and boom, they are on it. It's also a great spoon to use when you're in the bay and you're fishing over the shoals, and you're playing with it down, and you're fluttering it, fluttering it, and you might be in 15 feet, 20 feet of water, and then a shoal comes up, and next thing you know, you're in like 5 feet of water, right? But then it drops off. Like where we are, you'll get a drop off 20, 30 feet. What's really cool about this is that you could be doing that and drifting along. And again, I use a bait caster I'm always in free spool. And when I see my machine where it drops off, those big fish are right in that drop off, waiting for the bait. When you release and free spool it, because of the design, you may be moving this way, pulling it along, but once you free spool it, the weight pulls it backwards, and it actually will flutter backwards right towards where the fish are sitting, and they hit it on the drop. Great experience, tons of fun. It's also a great spoon to use if you're a kayaker, because it's not, kayakers usually, for the most part, where I am, they're not fishing in 60 and 80 feet of water. They usually stay in the bay, or they're up closer to the shore. You're not fooling around with a big dangling spoon like this. And you can work a Fat Cat much easier with your gear in your position that you're in your kayak. The one last thing I want to touch about with spoons, I get some feedback on, is why do you use a treble hook? Why do you use a treble hook? Why not a singular hook? Some people like to attach an assist hook up here as well on here. We don't add an assist hook on there because it just increases cost, and we're trying to bring you a product for the best price as possible. And we don't think that the assist hooks make that big of a difference where it's worth that extra cost. And assist hooks are readily available. You could get them and put them on yourself. So we leave that option to you. But the reason why we don't use a single hook here and we use a treble hook and a good quality treble hook on here is because it's a flutter spoon. It's always moving. It's completely erratic. So a lot of times a bass will come and try to hit it and it moves and you'll get that bass on the side. You'll get that bass on the bottom this way. Sometimes they just come to inspect it, like what's moving over there? Is that really food? And unbeknown to them, you grab them in their tail. So it's a great hook and setup to use. What I also like about this hook is I can honestly say that since we've been producing these spoons and I've been fishing these spoons, I've never gut hook a bass with a treble hook in this application with a spoon. And more times than not, and you don't have to take my word for it, make a comment below. Tell me what your experience is if you have some. You usually only get one of the hooks actually in the fish. You don't even get, I don't even remember getting 3 hooks in a fish. Mostly it's one time, maybe 2 hooks. And they're relatively easy to get out at that point, with simple pliers or with stripers. I usually get them out with my hand. And I can get that fish back in the water. Our mortality rate on our boat, I would argue is 100%. I hear people like, oh, bass die all the time. I don't know. We let go mostly all the fish we catch. A lot of my customers are catch and release customers. I'm a catch and release type of fisherman. I don't keep too many fish. So we put a lot of fish back in the water. Yes, you got to handle them properly. We try to do that. But we find that the bass are pretty healthy when we let them go. So we think they have a pretty good recovery rate. A couple of things I just want to show you real quick, I think is pretty neat, is this here. You may have seen this. We used to use a line cutter and a braid cutter called a boomerang. They were metal, but I found after a season or so, they would, or maybe sometimes in a half a season, because I'm pretty neglectful like that, they would rust out and break on us. I came across this one here. We were able to buy them, so we are now selling them online. It's ceramic. It's a ceramic blade, and it is razor sharp, and the springs inside are stainless, so they don't rust out. The outside is plastic. That's not rusting out. And they are really sharp. They go through braid like water. Like you don't even have to put any tension on it. You could just cut braid like this. It's great. It cuts mono, cuts fluoro. I have another video where we went through 100-pound mono with it. Now I wouldn't recommend that. It's not made to cut 100-pound mono, but just to show the strength and how sharp these are. And this is the one I used all season, and I use it for my demos, and it's fine. So, it's on our website. You could check it out. You could probably find it on Amazon, but they're probably more money than us. We try to monitor all the sites and keep our prices as low as we can and bring value to our customers. So you could check that out. The one other thing before I let you go that I'd like to show you is a bag. And the reason why I'm going to take a few moments to show you this is because I haven't found another bag like this. So that's why we designed it. This is called our spoon bag or our lure bag. And what's really neat about this bag is one side is a netted material for it to breathe. You could also rinse off your lures in it. Although I prefer to rinse my lures off out of the bag and then put them in the bag and let them dry that way. So one side is netting, the other side is a PVC plastic. The top here is a large pocket, so you could put a knife, your pliers in here. You could put leader material in there, whatever you need where you want to keep it a little dry or so forth. You could put that there. But this is the magic, and that's the inside of the bag. The inside of the bag looks like this. So you see these large sections of the bag. What's really neat about this bag is that if you have a fat cat, I could open this up and drop my fat cat right in there and close it up. And you can put another fat cat there. You can put another lure. But let's say you have a 9-inch spoon. Well, a 9-inch spoon is no problem as well, because each pocket works the same, and I could just drop my 9-inch spoon right in there like that. Matter of fact, I could put more than one 9-inch spoon in a particular pocket, like that, and it keeps it nice and neat. And so each pocket is split with Velcro, so you could separate whatever lures you want. So if you're going to use this like as a tuna bag, you could put your tuna gear in here and separate it. If you want to use it as a striper bag, you put your striper spoons and maybe Tony Maja trolling spoons. They fit right in one of these smaller pockets. They fit right in there. So that's really nice. The other thing that we did is that for your stripers or your tuners, we made this pocket here. And this is where you would put your jigs in here. Again, this is one big pocket, so if you need 2 spaces, you could take that, or just 1 space. And we put our flutter bait jigs in here, or rattler jigs in here, maybe some diamond jigs. If we're using those, we could put them in there. And then the bag just really just folds up nice and simple like this. Has Velcro on the sides as well to keep the sides closed. It has really a great handle that's double stitched. And there you go. You can fold it in half if you like. Put it underneath your arm. There you go. I put a little piece of tape on here. Put striper, fluke, tuna, and weak fish. I do a lot of weak fishing. And I have different bags all set up. So when I'm running to go fishing, I can just grab it out of my dock box, because I say, oh, yep, this is the striper bag. All my striper gear is in here. Oh, fluke fishing, no problem. I got my, double dropper loops. I've got, some of my soft plastics in here, extra rigs, extra hooks. It's all in here, nice and easy. I'm not dragging a tackle box with me and stuff like that. And then you can just put it away. Very neat. Goes right away. So, tell me what you think. How do you store your stuff? This is Captain V from All Pro. Our website is allprotacklebox.com. Now let's get fishing.